Hi, I'm Allison from Move Smart and Boomerang Pilates, and today we're going to talk about how to get yourself back into your bone-friendly workout routine after you've taken a break. I've just been off for a month where I walked and I ate and I slept, but I wasn't on my regular routine. So I'm going to start slow and I'm going to start lighter than I usually do, and I'd love for you to join me. So we know that Osteoporosis Canada says that the most important thing we want to work on is balance. And then we want to work on strength training, resistance training, getting stronger. So I'm going to focus on those two things, and then I'm going to add two other small things that I think are important for making the most of both the balance and the strength training. So we're going to do our two preps first, and then we're going to do balance and strength. We're going to start with our feet, because when you do balance work and when you do strength training, it's important to have nice, strong, functional feet. So we're going to start with just doing a little heel lift. So you're keeping your toes on the floor. You're getting a nice stretch at the base of your toes, articulating the muscles and the bones at the joint where your toes meet your foot, but we're also getting a little bit of calf activity and we're getting a little blood flow down into our feet. You can do this in bare feet. You can do it in socks. It's harder to do in shoes because they have a stiff sole unless you are using a flexible sole minimal shoe. So I would say go for bare feet if you can. And that's all we're going to do, just to get a little pliability into our feet. And the next thing we're going to do is a bit of joint mobility. So really moving and working specifically in your hip joints. So shift your weight over onto your right leg, right foot. You're welcome to hold onto a wall or a piece of furniture so that you just get your left leg off the floor. You're going to tip your body a little bit off to the right. Put your hands on your pelvis and turn your leg in and out right from where your leg meets your hip socket. So you're trying not to turn your whole body. You're just getting this nice spin of your leg in your hip socket. Ideally, you're going to feel some muscle work happening around your hip joint. You stay in a range that feels good to you. It's okay for it to feel like work. You're certainly going to be working your standing leg. And then come on down. Shift your weight over onto the left foot, get your right leg off, your right leg stays long and straight, hands on your pelvis to remind you to keep your pelvis still. Turn your leg in and out, and it's not uncommon for this to feel quite different from one side to the other, both in terms of your capacity to balance, the strength of the standing leg, and the mobility of the moving leg. So you might find on one side you're more inclined to move your whole pelvis, so your range has to be a bit smaller. If you have arthritis in your hips or a hip replacement, you're going to find that your range is different from side to side, and that is okay. So then you can come on back down. Those are our two preps for this session. Now we're going to go to balance. Balance comes first as our focus movement because we want to avoid falls because those can lead to fractures. And we're going to bring your right foot in front of your left foot. You have two choices here. You can go to, if your balance is less stable, what's called a semi-tandem stance, where your feet are not directly in front of each other, but just slightly offset. If your balance is a little more rugged, you can bring your right foot directly in front of your left foot. And in either case, you're now going to pull your inner thighs together, work those inner leg muscles. Think of pulling the outsides of your hips in, like you're deepening your leg bones into your hip sockets. And then think about all of the muscles of your trunk drawing in towards your spine. So we're really focusing on this midline connection of your abdominals, your pelvic floor, your inner thighs, your hip muscles. And then spread your toes wide on the floor. And feel for your weight to be reasonably evenly distributed, front foot to back foot. And if you are doing the semi-tandem stance, you're also pretty even back foot to side to side. And so here you have a couple of options. You again could be using a wall or a piece of furniture. You may find you're pretty stable If you're not so stable, you're feeling very wobbly, you're just going to continue to work on holding this position. Otherwise, you can bring your arms out to your sides, turn your palms to face the ceiling, and then touch your nose, and touch your nose, and touch your head, and touch your head, and touch your hip, and touch your hip. We're just trying to add and then go through that again. We're just adding a little extra movement of your arms to challenge your balance a little bit. Touch your hip, and then relax your arms and change sides. So now you bring the other foot in front, either directly in front or slightly offset, and you recenter. So inner thighs working, toes spread wide, feet planting into the floor. Draw your legs into your hip sockets, think about your spine, relax your shoulders. Take a little moment here to decide, are you hanging on to something? Are you not hanging on to something? Are you working harder on this side than you did on the other? That could always be a thing. And then possibly, if you're feeling up to it, you touch your nose, woo, touch your head. Your balance is almost always going to be better on one side than it is on the other. So if you feel a bit more wobbly on this side like I do, you're okay. Touch your nose, hand to your head, and then one more time to your hip, and relax your arms and relax your legs. So then we want to go into strength training, but we're starting small, remember? So if you've taken a break and you are normally working with a pretty heavy weight, I normally work for squats, I normally work with a pretty heavy weight, I'm going to step it back. You're going to pick the weight that allows you to come into a nice hip hinge squat where your hips and knees are moving together evenly, where you can only do 8 to 10 repetitions of your squat. So I'm going to start with a 15-pound weight. You might be starting with a 2-pound weight. It's all good. It's very individual, this stuff. There's nothing specific. And nothing even specific in the same person as you progress your weights. So whatever weight feels good to you, you're going to have your weight tucked close in towards your chest, feet pointing forward, legs a little bit wider than hip distance apart. When we come into the squat, we really want to make sure that we're keeping a long spine. So you send your butt back and down, and you bring your butt up over top of your feet. We are particularly, especially with weight, not looking to curve our spines. So nice and wide, open across the front of your chest and shoulders. Inhale to stay. Exhale. Send your hips down and back, only as far as you can go without tucking your butt, and come on back up. Press down, keeping your ribs lifting a little bit so that you're not doing a rib dump. Gives you more ab work. 3, 4, 5. If you can do 6, go for it. If you can do 7, go for it. If you can do 8, you stop when it's time for you to stop. And then you put your weight down, being careful to use a good spine sparing strategy. And we're going to take a moment. We're going to let your breath settle. We're going to let your legs relax. And we're going to just do a little side hip shift. Do-do-do, do-do-do. Because it's really important to get more than one direction of load onto your bone cells. Squats and lunges are great strength training exercises, but they always use the same direction. We want to go in other directions, which is why we do that rotation earlier, and now we do this little bit of side shift. And then we come back and we do a second set of squats. So spine sparing strategy, long spine, bring your weight right up close to your chest, feet super planted, think of lifting your arches, and then press back and down and come on up and maybe take a step forward if you butt your butt into the wall. 2 and up. 3, and you're going only as low as makes sense for you, especially again if you have arthritis in your hips or your knees. You're keeping your eye on your back, should feel super strong. I've kind of lost track. Let's say that was 6, 7, and one more is 8. Spine sparing strategy, hinge, weight down, long spine to come back up. This time, side to side, but actually lift one leg. And shift, and shift. My feet are a little bit sticky on the mat today. It's very humid. Couple more on each side. And come on back to center. Now, you might be done. 2 sets might be enough for you. And it's really okay as you go through your sets if you do fewer, right? If you started with 8 and then you did 7, maybe you're only going to do 6 this time. Maybe you're done. Totally fine. If you want to do another one with me, let's go. Hinging at your hips and your knees, long spine, picking up your weight, bringing it close to your chest, press up with your legs, right? You're doing a squat to get ready for your squats. And down, and push your heels into the floor. Don't forget to breathe. Five. So this is where you might stop. If you can't do as many as 5, you want to use a lighter weight. This is our last one. Press up. And again, putting your weight down, whether it's going onto the floor or it's going onto a chair. Come on up. So hopefully that feels good. We'll finish with a nice little breathing into your ribs. So bring your hands onto the side of your rib cage. Breathe in through your nose so you feel your ribs expanding. And let it go. One more time. And then let the air go. Last one. And let it go. Nice and easy. Slide your arms down by your sides. I hope you enjoy this little introduction to getting back into your movement session, and I'll see you next time.